You will never be the same.
And with the full catastrophe, he didn't mean it was all bad.
God that I worship has a way of saying, don't play with.
I invite you to the dance with the Lord of the dance.
God didn't call America to do what she's doing in the world now.
Please dance.
Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of our episode from last week. We ran a little over. If you watched the video from last week, you know that already. This is what happens when we don't have
the video from last week. Go back and watch that because this one,
this won't make sense.
You did.
But yeah, this is what happens when Mal's not here to reel us back in, and
that happens.
But you know, we love talking about the Bible. We love talking about how it can apply to us every day, and sometimes we go a little over, and I think that's okay, right?
Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. As we mentioned at the beginning of last week's episode, this passage is the one where Luke decided to say all of the things about everything and make like 9 different life lessons in one parable. So there was a lot to dig into.
Yeah, but come on, join with us as we finish up our discussion. And we love you guys, and thanks so much for watching.
Here we go. Crust is all. So we've gotten off topic. What else do you got for me here?
So I think kind of the last thing that I had is, you know, kind of breaking down kind of the other part of this verse that we really hear a lot is probably the whoever is faithful in a very little is faithful also in much, and whoever is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. So if then you have not been faithful with the dishonest wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? So, you know, going on to say, you know, we've heard if you can't be trusted with a little, how can God trust you with a lot?
Yeah.
And it's kind of used as a beatdown verse. It's kind of what I've always felt it as. It's insane because they're saying, well, you messed up this one thing. God can't trust you with more if you're not willing to, you know, and it's, again, we bring up tithes and offerings. And it's like, well, if you're not faithful to give your 10%, then God can't be faithful with you. And if you're even more faithful and you're giving 20%, maybe God can be more faithful with you. And it's, you know, it's used as a
two points here. First off, shameless plug for our other series, Back to Basics, now streaming on YouTube. We recently discussed the whole 10% thing, which has its initial origins in an interaction between Abram, Lot, and Sodom and Gomorrah. So maybe not as wholly wise as people might think.
Right.
But I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the simplest possible terms for the children of this age who are more shrewd than the children of light. Church is not portraying.
Oh man,
I'm sorry, it's not.
Which tier are you in? That's the question.
That's evangelicalism right there, though, isn't it? Like, which tier are you in? Are you? We
called him out last week. We'll call him out again. Joel Osteen.
Right. Still looking at you, Osteen. We'll be looking at you for a while.
Yeah, we're gonna probably be looking at him a lot.
Yeah, a little bit. And we may throw Franklin Graham and the Liberty University crowd and the whole group of them in with it. Like, they're all doing the same thing. You know, you don't get to be an elder unless you're tithing 20-30%, of your pre-tax earnings, but only off of your trust funds. Can't be off of your standard stuff. Just make sure your accountant talks to our accountant.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I have a loved one that I won't name who just because I don't want to.
Obviously.
I found out that they are giving more than my rent payment to their church. And basically because they feel as though that's what they've been told to do. And look, I can't argue it.
As someone who is the pastor of an actual church, which will, once we get our accounting in order, be subsisting in part off of tithes, like I'm not going to say no to people donating to the church. Like, that is helpful, and it is, with the right motivations, a good thing to do. If you're pulling in, say, 10,000 US a month, and you feel like throwing 1 or 2 to the church, that's okay. Like, that's a good use of your funds. Like, I'm assuming you're doing other things with your funds as well, like, buying a homeless shelter every other month or something. I don't know what rich people do.
You should have enough to bankroll that.
Like putting your city through college or what have you. I'm assuming you're doing other stuff as well, but yeah, chucking a bit towards your local church so that we can also be
absolutely
doing the work and the worship and the setting up our programs for everybody else. Great. And if you're super wealthy and you want to just make the church your base of operations, give a whole bunch to them and say, hey, let's work together and really make this community a better place. Awesome. But if you are, say, living paycheck to paycheck and trying to give as much to the church as you're giving to your landlord and rent, no.
Right.
No. Like,
stop it.
Like, the way things work in a capitalist society is that 10% of your income is great if you're wealthy, but 10% of your income is murder if you're not.
Right.
Like, it's not a numbers game. Church has never been a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
The way that a church is supposed to work is not unlike the progressive tax system that we're supposed to have in the United States. The people on top pay a ridiculous percentage. The people on the bottom receive a ridiculous percentage, and everybody meets in the middle.
Right.
That is an adaptation of the more communistic, I know you guys hate that word, but there it is, principles on which the church was founded.
Crazy.
So when we're talking about tithing and stuff like that, failing to give 10% is not being dishonest.
Right.
Failing to give at all is not dishonest.
Right.
Like, this is not a membership dues organization. It's nice if you can. It sure helps us. Like and subscribe,
right.
All of
Share.
that.
All of
definitely. Oh my God, please put these videos out in front of people. Anyway, but it's not about the numbers in that way. And when this is why it blows me away to imagine this verse being used as a cudgel for people, is because this has been one of the most uplifting verses for me in this season, because I'm putting out videos that get 4 or 5 views each, doing a podcast that gets sometimes the same, sometimes less. I've got a church that's not doing worship in person right now because we don't have enough people to form a music team. That I'm basically going on my own during the days to move boxes to help refurbish. I'm doing a lot of work, and spoiler alert for those of you who might be wondering, I did mention that our church is not currently configured to accept tithes. I'm not drawing a paycheck for doing this right now. I hope to be sometime in the near future, because that's how we're going to keep this wonderful content going. But I ain't doing it because I'm making the big bucks off it.
No, absolutely not.
And that is, and I know you're in a similar position as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why this verse is uplifting to me, is because these are little things. Like, I'm not preaching, as much as I enjoy the idea of putting stuff out on YouTube, we ain't being seen by the masses here. Like, we're being seen by a handful who, again, please share it around. We would like to be seen by the masses.
And we love each and every one of you. Just so you're
absolutely. But this is for us being faithful in very little, is because this is, as much as I might aspire to the worldly successes of truly devoted ministers in the word out there, like Nadia Boltz-Weber, Jess Cast, and others that are doing good work and very well seen for it. Part of being a good servant of Christ means being willing to toil in relative obscurity and be okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what being faithful in the little things is to not necessarily be rewarded in the way you want, to be publicly lauded for the good things you do.
Yeah.
And if you are faithful in that, then bigger things will come to you.
For sure.
But if you are doing as the Instagram influencers of our time love to do, as doing one little piece of charity work, like putting a piece of trash in a trash can and saying, look at me, I have done a good. But please make with the likes.
Right.
No. Like,
Right.
absolutely not. And the way this ties into the verse is because the manager was fired.
Right.
He was doing what he was doing, partially for self-preservation, sure. But mostly because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
He was being faithful for the sake of being faithful, not faithful because the idea behind it was, oh, this will generate wealth for my employer and keep me in good standing with the master. No, he's like, dude kicked me to the curb, so ain't no reason for me to not do what's right.
Right.
You know,
and like, can we take away this weird, like, at least in the evangelical church. I don't know if it's made its way into the mainstream, of Christianity, but this idea that self-preservation is somehow wrong in all of its forms.
Yeah, there is a confusing line with this when this comes to Christianity. I'll be honest. There is a great degree of self-sacrifice that is part and parcel to our theology and way of living. And to deny that exists and saying that self-preservation is okay wouldn't be accurate, nor would it be honest.
Sure.
But there is a line between abandoning self-preservation in favor of a greater good and deliberate self-destruction.
Right.
And that's the line that's blurred in our culture right now. Is we say self-preservation is valid, and then we immediately jump from there to the extreme of saying, treat yourself, spa day, I'm going to do all me, I'm going to do me, and the heck with you, which ain't it. Like, self-preservation is valid. You can't help anybody if you're dead.
Right.
Let's be clear about that. But there is a ladder going up and a ladder going down, and going up, you want to make sure that you're alive. But as I tell churches around the world, you want to be zero budget at the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about that last week.
Exactly. Alive and thriving capitalistically are two very different things.
Right.
And in the other direction, going down the ladder, you don't want to be homeless, living on the streets, dying of 17 different diseases just because there was one other person you could give an extra buck to, or worse, so that you could give your extra buck to the church. I want to remind everybody of the story of the widow and her coin. Now, this is another one, and I'm going to do a nice little mini episode here because I'm sure this one will come up later, but this is my nice little mini episode for everybody. The widow and her coin is Jesus standing at the treasury. Widow comes in, drops her little 2 pennies in, and comes out, and wow, she's got more faith than all of these people who are being big and boisterous and dropping in their millions. And it's always taken to be an example of the widow had the greatest faith of all in donating the little bit that she had. We will now collect our tithes and offerings.
Right.
But
I'm familiar again.
People always forget that the next 4 pages of the Bible are Jesus saying, literally the next words out of his mouth, I believe, are woe to you, you scribes and Pharisees, you parasites, I hate you. She should not have done that. She should not have had to do that. And in this whole thing, Jesus is absurdly this is one of the moments where he's over the top angry in what he's delivering, because this is an abuse. This is a woman who was told that to go down the ladder to the point of self-destruction was okay. Yeah. She needed those to buy food. The church wasn't giving her food. The temple wasn't giving her food. She donated them to God because she believed that the ephemeral benefit of giving her food and starving was going to be more important than not dying. And that's going down that ladder. So neither of those directions are okay. And that's something that I think is worth stressing. We are a self-sacrificial people as Christians. We're called to do that. And so I want to caution people, self-preservation, don't die.
Right.
But also don't go all the way up the ladder and, Don Amigo yourself into, doing nothing for nobody. Which, Parks and Rec cut. I'm not sure.
But no, I mean, that's absolutely, kind of my stance on it. Was kind of what I was trying to get to, and you just kind of picked it apart.
Sorry, it's what I do.
Yeah, it's okay. It's what I'm here for. But it's just, it's not a bad thing to make sure you're okay. Is more kind of that line that I try to hit of just, we make sure that we're not, hurting, but, we're not out here to, again, let's collect your tithes and offerings and get, Pastor Tim and Pastor Don some money. We're not here about that.
There's also and this is something I try to caution people about too on the same topic. There's a certain anthropocentrism we like to take when we're reading these parables. We like to immediately put ourselves in either the place of the hero or the villain of the piece.
Right.
Typically, we like to put ourselves in the place of the hero and put the people we don't like in the place of the villain. So like in reading today's passage, I can almost guarantee you everybody who read this put themselves in the place of the manager. Yeah. And put the people that they don't necessarily like, maybe their boss, in the place of the master.
Yeah.
The point I have, it is not wrong to read yourself in the place of the guy who owed 100 jugs of olive oil and couldn't fill his bill. Sometimes that's where you are, and that is okay too. Like we talk about the widow and her coin, we always try to put ourselves in the place of the widow if we're reading this as her being faithful, or in our place as the apostles, if you're reading it correctly. But like, you should be willing to put yourself in the place of the widow if you're reading it correctly. The one who is giving too much and needs to not. Like, that is a legitimate place to read yourself into these stories. You don't always have to be the main character. It doesn't always have to be about you in that way.
Yeah.
You can be the poor person who needs to benefit from the church. You can accept help.
Yeah.
And you should be able to
make yourself a hero. Be the NPC sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, notwithstanding the way I've been known to treat NPCs in games from time to time.
Fair. We've all murder hobo.
We've all murdered a couple of NPCs for the kicks. We know how it goes. But no, like, this is something I really want to stress to people, because I even saw this growing up. People that were just too proud to ask the church for help.
Yeah.
Like, if everybody gives and nobody takes, I mean, then I'm going to have a really good Christmas, I guess, but nobody else will.
Right, I guess, yeah.
Which, you know, while I appreciate the thought, that's not what we're here for.
Right, for sure.
You know, there's a reason why the income of your average pastor isn't all that much higher than the income of your average school teacher in America, in a public school. Like, it's not normally, like, we aren't living high on the hog here. We're not supposed to.
Right. Yeah. It's sustaining, and that's kind of the whole message. But I think we pretty much hammered this one down.
I'm pretty sure, and I'm pretty sure we probably went over time doing it, because that's what we do.
Yeah, especially with Mal not to reel us in. So.
Exactly. So if this did wind up going,
person that totally never existed in the podcast ever.
Yeah, exactly. Mandela effect. So if I have no means of monitoring the time while we're recording. So if this did wind up going over long, then fun fact, we may split it into a two-parter again, which we've done before. Yep. If not, then I hope you enjoy this wonderful extra long bonus episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so in the meantime, I want to thank you all for listening in. This has been another fun episode. I love batting the ball around with you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So as we have alluded to multiple points within our video today, the like, share, and subscribe bit actually really does help. Like, particularly the sharing part. Like, the more people who we can get eyes on with this thing, the better. Mostly because we're building a community here.
Absolutely.
And our communities are kind of joined at the hip at this point. Yep. So I want to really invite you guys to not pick one, just kind of dive in. Like, our community is based on a Discord server, and we've got people coming into that. Actually, a lot more lately. We've seen a lot more new people come in lately. I'd love to see more. You know, if passive videos aren't your thing and you have more questions that we didn't answer, the Discord server is where you can go to ask those questions.
Heck yeah. And I'll give you my completely uneducated answers if you want them. So
yeah, and I'll give you my completely educated answers, which are probably going to be just as good.
Hey. But I think this is the part where we plug the links, right? The ones that are going to be down here.
So scroll down. Don't worry, you don't have to look at me. If you're on YouTube, scroll down. Like down there. Right there. They're just and I'm saying this from 2022. I'm sure they'll change their format eventually. Just below the video, just look right down there. Right down there.
You might have to hit read more.
Yes, show more. It says right there. You might have to click on that, but there are links there.
Yes.
Below the excessively wordy text that the pastor types wrote. It's right down there at the bottom. Click on those to find out more about the places. We're both doing experimental things in different ways that are kind of slowly coming together to be one massive experimental thing being done in crazy ways.
Yeah, we are.
So join us in doing experimental things in crazy ways, because that's what's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's break this thing open.
Yeah, like a dwarf with a hammer in the most recent Lord of the Rings episode.
I love it.
Yeah.
But thank you guys.
Note, Black Elves for the win.
But anyway,
anyway, before we get into another topic.
Thank you guys all for watching. We love each and every one of you. Thanks for being a part of the community. And if you're not a part of the community yet, as we said, links are all down below. Yeah. So come hang out with us. Come check us out on the Discord. I think I've plugged it all, right?
Yeah. Most importantly, have a good week. We love you. We're praying for you. We're thinking about you, and take care.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.